Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back. It's something that we take for granted. Seeing these big rigs, cargo tanks, transportation on the roadways, the safety that goes into that is huge. And there is a company that makes sure that these companies are adhering to the rules. There are many different guidelines, state and federal. DOT Training Solutions is that company. Today, we're going to talk about cargo tanks and what defects can be found in those cargo tanks and what are some of the safety protocols. Matt Freeman is the guy behind DOT Training Solutions. He's back with us. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, Steve, doing well. Good to be back.
Good to have you here. And we're also going to bring back Randy Decker. And Randy, you are the cargo tank instructor. Do I have that right?
Correct. Teaching the regulations on cargo tanks and what they mean when they're testing these tanks every year.
Gotcha. The reason we're bringing this up today is because there was an explosion very recently of a chemical cargo tank, and they contacted your company, Matt, for insight and guidance in terms of safety. Can we just start with that?
Sure. We get a lot of new customers out there when incidents happen. Hey, we need someone to come in and help us because of whatever the incident may have been. Could be training, could be driving, could be a lot of things. So, one of the things we always try to tell our customers is to stay, our motto is to stay one step ahead, not two steps back. And, sometimes you got to take that reactive approach. And that's when we get calls from an incident of some sort happening to come in and help assist these customers on, how to prevent that. What do we need to do? Is it, safety, compliance parts? Is it training? Which those all three go together. And, our goal is to help when folks reach out to us to see what we can do to help prevent that again. And we get a lot of calls, and there's been a handful of in the last 12 months here of incidents with cargo tanks. And we've had, handfuls of different ones from major stuff to small things, not as major, I guess, who reach out, and we go in and we work with these folks and make sure that, we can do what we can to prevent it. First off, we want to see what happened. Were they not trained right? Things like that. And that's where Randy comes into play too. Then we come in and we make sure that, what are you looking for? How can this be prevented? And therefore, and that's where looking for the defects and things in these tanks. Was there a defect that someone didn't see? Where does the fault lay? You don't know until you start really looking into it.
Now, you don't have the deeper details on this. You're going to speak with this company later today or very soon. But is this a situation where this cargo company had an explosion of a chemical tank, and now they're saying, we don't know what's going on. We don't know why it happened. We don't know why. That's why they're calling upon you to just make sure that things are safe moving forward.
A lot of times it takes a while to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Until you start diving into, from the beginning to the end, where did the tank start? What was the driver doing? Into all those details, you really don't know that. And that's where, even on the consulting side, you still got to dig into that with the customer, because if you're going to do training with them, you need to know what to train on and what areas to focus in. And there's one part of the training that we do, it's required by the government. It's called function-specific training. And what that hazmat employee does on a daily basis is that's their hazmat, that's their function. So we try to line that up. So especially if it's a cargo tank, that's where, Randy and team come into play and say, hey, let's focus, guys. Let's just reevaluate how you're doing these inspections, because that's where it could be. You just, you don't know.
Sure. Randy, this is in your wheelhouse as a cargo tank instructor. What are some of the defects that can potentially come up that can cause a situation like this, or just a tank that's faulty?
Just a tank that's faulty. It's Steve, it's really wide out there. You don't know what failed on it. Was it a pressure relief device that didn't relieve pressure in time? Was it a loading process that failed, or a product hose that failed?
Hmm.
There's so many things that can go wrong, you know, during a loading or offloading process that you have to really do some investigation, because the tank's sealed when they're loaded, and so you're venting your vapors off into a collection, and, you know, did it plug? Did it, I mean, just various things that could go wrong. Like Matt said, when we go out and do our instructing, we really follow what the federal government has found out there. When they go out and they do their audits at different facilities, like could be coming up with this facility. They've had a major accident, so you know, DOT is going to come in and do an audit. So, you could find out what's going on. Are their testing procedures correct? Do they really know what they're inspecting? Are they following the regulations? All the way through it. And that's where we try to come in and tie the regulations in with the inspectors so they understand what they are doing. Um, you know, that's the hard part,
Hmm.
is connecting the dots between the inspectors and the regulations. It's a lot of information that you know people have never been taught, or led to. A lot of people out there, through the classes, it seems to be more of a preaching instead of a teaching. And we really thrive on teaching the regulations through the whole process. Make sure everybody understands, what they are inspecting and why. That's the big thing, is why.
Hmm. As I've learned from both of you, that these tanks, the integrity of them is amazing. I had no idea that these tanks last for potentially decades and decades. So why don't you recap that and even add to it what we're dealing with here in these cargo tanks, that in my mind, it's a big metal shell and it's the stuff around it that can potentially fail. How often do the tanks themselves actually fail? The integrity of uh the welds and the seals and all of that. Does that happen a lot?
Oh yeah, it does. I
Hmm.
mean, on a daily basis for the drivers. And,
Hmm.
again, why they're inspected, at least for the external, and what they call a K leakage test every year, plus the federal inspection, highway inspection. So, you know the things that can fail, the PRDs, the gaskets, the piping, brakes. I mean, just numerous of
Hmm.
things. I was on LinkedIn the other day, and it said truck on fire. So naturally, I gotta go to it and watch it. And it was a tanker going down the road that looked like the brakes had caught on fire.
Wow.
You know, it
Yeah.
goes in so many directions, and what causes any of this and all of this at the time. You know, got to make sure you're doing your maintenance and doing it like you should be, following recommended practices. There's a lot of different ways to find what those recommended practices are, out there.
Is
So,
I want to I'm going to go from the visuals that many of us have in our mind watching movies and how accurate that is. So we have a cargo tank. It's a tanker.
right?
There is flammable material inside of it. There is a fire with the brakes, and I have to imagine there's a lot going on there to stop a vehicle of that weight. So it could be a fire, as you described, Randy. What is the probability of a fire that's lower underneath the cargo tank igniting the tank itself? Where I'm going with that is how how safety sound is that tank against fire? Or is it, yeah, you got a fire, there's going to be heat, really good chance it's going to blow up. Like
Oh yeah.
in the movies, it blows up. But what are we looking at there?
Well, the big thing, if the tanker's loaded, you're a little bit safer than if it were empty with vapors, because it's the vapors that actually, ignite.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you got your product that gives it the fuel, which then we have a bomb. But the vapor lines, if the gaskets aren't sealing, if you got a hole in a vapor line, um, as this unit's going down the road, now it's got many valves in place to try to keep all this, from happening. But, if it's all leaking and you happen to be going down the road, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, the
Yeah.
fire coming up on the shell. Now, your fuel trailers, your what we're going to call a 406 that hauls fuel to your gas stations. Okay. They're aluminum. They're not steel, they're not stainless, they are aluminum. So that aluminum is going to melt pretty quick with a fire that's super hot due to a tire
Mhm.
on, fire. So, the
Hmm.
possibilities are always there. You see a fire, get away, call 911 and run.
As soon as you said aluminum, I got a queasy feeling in my stomach because I'm thinking pretty thin metal. Why wouldn't it be steel? Why in something that is flammable? What's the reason behind that?
It's all done, actually, through the design certified engineers, but ultimately, weight. I mean, think about it. Is your aluminum tank going to be lighter or is your steel tank going to be?
Oh, wow.
How much fuel can I haul?
Mhm.
Most of your fuel trailers are, oh, let's just say 9,000 gallons to 9,500 gallons. Now, naturally, they can't haul all that due to weight restrictions, with highways. But, that's a lot of fuel. And, they want to haul their 80,000, like me, I'm here in Oklahoma, so it's 80,000 pounds. They want to get as close to that as they can. And, you want to do it with product because, we're in an industry to make money. So the more I haul, the more I make. And the aluminum, I mean, actually, they're lasting 20, 30 years. I mean, as long as you do your cargo tank testing correctly, so like I tell everybody, set your customer up for success. Find all the defects now before they come major and, fix them. And within that, we're following regulations.
Mm. What is there a difference in safety between aluminum and steel? Let's say we didn't have to worry about weight.
The steel has, I mean, think about it, you're flammable. So if a spark happens, what's going to happen? You know, so yeah, I would say there's a big safety. Steel also corrodes a lot quicker than the aluminum does. I mean, aluminum will fatigue, but that's why it's got the reinforcements in there, you
Hmm.
know, to make them last longer. But
And
it's like all your gas cans that you get Walmart and wherever else, they're all plastic. They do have some that are metal, but you'll also see a grounding strap with them. So, you make sure there's no static electricity.
Hmm.
yeah.
Another queasy feeling in the stomach.
Right.
Matt, would you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, just in some of the weight, he was talking about, some of these states allow you to have, the trailer itself, your typical everyday trailer's got four axles. Well, some of these trailers have six axles, some have eight axles. You see a tank, it's heavy. It's hauling more because it's got more axles. So you'll see some of these super duties that we call them, or super loads out there that are transporting, you know, until you identify what the markings are on it to see what it is. There's some pretty massive amounts of chemicals being trans, moved around out there. Um, so that I was just going to say that, and depending also on the chemical that's in those, fuel, because of some chemicals or fuels, or let's say just hazmat in general, are more corrosive than others. So you have to use certain metals, because they are corrosive, and then they have to be lined, which those inspections have to be done on those tanks too. So if it is corrosive um, a material, then they put a lining in it, and then those inspections are critical too to do. So it really depends on the chemical that's being transported. And Randy brought a great point up. When you got flammables and stuff, you don't want something that can spark, and because it is the vapor that it ignites quicker than the liquid. It's kind of like some folks, you see diesel. Well, you can put a matchstick out in a jar of diesel fluid or fuel. I mean, but you don't want to do that with with gasoline.
Sure.
And all it takes is just a flame, and it'll ignite before you even touch it, depending on the fumes. So
Yeah.
it depends on what you're transporting. Those are just common things you see every day. Now, I'm not going encouraging anybody to go get a jar of diesel fuel and try the trick, but it's a fact. So in some of those, like when we're looking at inspections and things, we're talking with the students, the registered inspectors. We always go through what's the most common violations out there, and that they're finding. What's DOT finding at your shops that you're missing? When they come into their audits and investigations, filling out the paperwork correctly. Our job is to say, if you didn't fill it out, did you do the inspection right?
Hmm.
Were you trained correctly? Did you just have a bad day and forget something? When you start seeing repeat of the same mistake, and it's like, hey, how can we work with you on, whatever the issue may be? If it's doing the test wrong, if it's literally just doing the math wrong sometimes. They're not testing something at the proper pressure that it's supposed to be tested at. It can be many things and these are very common things that enforcement goes in every day and writes these same violations up. We've been very fortunate enough that after someone became our customers, we've prevented a lot of these things. Things still get missed, but our goal is, or someone used my phrase on local TV this morning, we want to be one step ahead, not two steps back. So when we come in and you're making these mistakes, you're already a step back. Well, let's get you that step ahead. Let's be reactive now so we can become proactive as we move forward. So
when you go into a gas station, and to your point about the gasoline, you always see the vapors coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You fill up a gas can.
Right.
When you're in the gas station, they have the overhead, whatever that is, to extinguish a fire. I forget what it's called. I think it starts with an H. Why or do some cargo tankers with flammable material like that have some way to suppress fire? Do any tankers have that?
No, not that I'm aware of. I
Wow.
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Like in the situation, Randy, you mentioned about the brakes on the cargo tanker catching fire. Like, what do you it'd be nice to press a button or have something automatically deploy something to maybe help extinguish the flames. Why wouldn't they do that? I don't know, just thinking hypothetical.
I mean, does it happen very often? No. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, it does happen. Listen, but how often does it happen? What other dangers are you bringing in? Now you're talking about a fire suppression system that would have to be maintained on the trailers.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
really
this. That's what I'm
Yes.
smelling. Yeah. Because
it
now
really is.
it's weight. You've added weight to it. When you're in the gas station, you see those red, almost looks like, sort of fire extinguisher type things. There's got to be weight of the material in there to extinguish the fire. So yeah, now I'm getting it. Wow.
Well, it's,
and it is.
go.
It's. I'm sorry, Matt. It's how fast or what does the driver do? I have witnessed by video the company that I worked for, that a driver was dropping fuel at a fuel station and something ignited, spark or whatever, but it caught, the location, the ground on fire. And, the driver picked up his fire extinguisher, ran right back over and was able to put it out. They are required by law, not so much on the trailer, but the truck is required to carry a fire extinguisher. Now, a lot of companies carry, fire extinguishers on their trailers, which is smart in my mind. And, the drivers grab them, they put them out, they use them. I haven't, to me, I haven't witnessed an explosion due to a tire yet. Been some close calls, but but thankfully, nothing has gone that absurd just yet. Um, you know, there's a lot of accidents out there, and it goes back to, like Matt was saying, and what we talked about. What is DOT finding at all their customers that they're going in and doing these audits on? Failing to train their hazmat employees, whether it's general hazmat or function specific. That's quite a bit in 2023. All of this is public information for everybody. Go out to the CVSA website and, see what the common violations is, because that's what we do. And we really try to get those violations down, especially when you see them from year to year. This is still what they're finding, so people must not be understanding. So that, we go in and try to educate and teach and, answer any questions that they have, and, continue to try to make our roadways and our public safe. We want everybody to go home at the end of the day.
I want to, and to that point, there is one driver that did go home at the end of the day after an accident. I just saw a video of this the other day. Female driver. She was in a rig. She was on a bridge. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Yeah.
And there was a vehicle that veered into her lane. She swerved over and wound up hanging off the bridge in the rig. And a firefighter, she was hanging for I don't know, something like 40 minutes. And there's video of all of it from her cab, and you see her being evasive. But then when the rig goes over, you see the water, and then you're also looking at pieces of the rig falling off, like the hood and all of that. So a couple of questions on that. And I know we're pivoting away from cargo tanks for a moment here, but safety.
Safety.
Is it customary now for video to be taken in rigs now? And your thoughts on her? There are some people that are panning her, like, why was she turning the other way? They're not getting it in terms of the direction she was turning. It looks like she did an amazing job. What are your thoughts?
So, the cameras save lives. They really do. They stand up in court. They have the inboarding, outboarding cameras. I've worked with companies that install these on, that I partner with and install these on, all trucks, tankers, box van trailers, all commercial motor vehicles. I think the cameras are great. They're going to save your life, as far as litigation goes. They're a good preventive measure. They could also hurt you at the same time because they're showing what really happened. That's the bad thing about them. But if you're ever in defense for something, because you're being accused of wrongdoing in your vehicle, and your camera can show you otherwise, that's your benefit. Now, if you are doing wrongdoing, well, it's going to go against you. But it saves so much more, and it also helps if there's an accident. What really happened? Because when a driver, anybody's in an accident, your first immediate shock is like, oh my gosh, what did I do? It's not even your fault. What did I just do? It's just a reaction. And the first thing that officers are going to do is try to get there as quick as possible and interview that driver or drivers or whoever's involved and ask questions. You're going to be in shock. Well, where's the true answer now? To my personal opinion, is with these cameras. And there's so much they can do today with that technology. And again, it kind of showed what was going. I guess I didn't see the video that you guys were talking about.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm going to watch it now. I'm surprised I didn't see it, but
I think it was in Nashville, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. We're just about out of time, but Randy,
Okay.
Briefly here, your thoughts. Did she do the right thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't know until you're sitting in that seat.
Yeah.
And, was anybody hurt? Thankfully, no. And, she didn't end up going over. So, yeah, I mean, I believe she did the right thing.
Yeah, we don't have all the angles. We don't have all the data, break situation and all of that. But, judging from the video, it looks like she did the right thing. I mean, the vehicle swerved into her lane. Either she could have swerved left and it could have went over the bridge that way. I don't know if there was barriers there, but the vehicle was going that way as it swerved into her lane. So, she'd be swerving into it. She swerved the other way and went off the bridge. But like you said, it turned out okay. And thanks to that firefighter who literally climbed down and pulled her out of the cab. Great talk today. Like, I always learn so much. Like, this is like super cool. And it just illustrates, I mean, the cargo tank explosion that we mentioned at the start today, that they're reaching out to you, Matt, because they need help. They need help for what happened to them. How does somebody actually find you?
Yeah, Steve. Anybody can reach me at on our website at dottrainingsolutions.com. Or they can reach out to my personal email. It's matt@dottrainingsolutions.com. Or again, my direct phone number is 573-416-8203. And if you go to our website, go to our About page, you can reach any of our trainers and consultants.
Wow.
Randy's information is right there as well, along with his email. Randy, you want to tell them what your information is real quick?
Well, you would do that to me when I knowing my business phone number is not something that I call very often, But anyway, my email is randydecker@dottrainingsolutions.com. And the phone number is 913-350-0373. Okay, if you have any questions out there, anybody, cargo tank testing, anything, give me a call.
Sure. And we would prefer that if you contact any of these two gentlemen, that you do it not after an explosion. Of course, you need to, but let's be, like we said before, let's be proactive on the safety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Safety first. Safety first.
Thank you both for being here today. Really appreciate it.
All right. See you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.